How does a nation of islands scattered across the vast blue of the Pacific Ocean hold on to its identity? How does it survive waves of colonization, the turmoil of a world war, and the relentless power of nature itself? This is the story of Vanuatu, an archipelago of extraordinary beauty and even greater resilience. Its people have navigated a history as complex and challenging as the ocean currents that flow between their 83 islands. From ancient migrations to modern-day climate battles, Vanuatu's journey is a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit. It is a story of survival, adaptation, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their ancestral lands, a bond that continues to define their path forward. For thousands of years, these volcanic islands have been home to a vibrant tapestry of cultures. They have weathered cyclones that can flatten entire villages in a matter of hours and earthquakes that shake the very foundations of their world. Yet time and again the people of Vanuatu have rebuilt, replanted, and renewed their communities. This remarkable endurance is not born of chance. It is woven into the very fabric of their society. It is found in their deep understanding of the natural world, their strong community ties, and their profound spiritual connection to the islands they call home. This spirit has been tested repeatedly, but it has never been broken. The story of Vanuatu is not just one of survival, it is also one of immense cultural richness. Here, more than 100 distinct languages are spoken, each carrying the unique history and worldview of its people. This incredible diversity is a living library of human experience, a treasure trove of knowledge passed down through countless generations. It is a reminder that a nation's strength does not lie in uniformity, but in the harmonious coexistence of its many different parts. The people here have learned to live with diversity, to celebrate it, and to draw strength from it in ways that many larger nations are still struggling to understand. As we explore this nation's past, we see how every chapter has left an indelible mark on its present and future. The arrival of ancient seafarers, the strange period of dual colonial rule, the unexpected impact of a global war, and the hard-won fight for independence have all shaped the Vanuatu of today. This history is not merely a collection of events that happened long ago. It is a living force that continues to influence politics, society, and the everyday lives of the Vanuatu people. Understanding this past is the key to understanding the challenges and hopes that define this remarkable island nation as it charts its course in the 21st century. Long before European ships ever appeared on the horizon, these islands were settled by brave Austronesian voyagers. Around 3,000 years ago, they navigated the vast open ocean in magnificent outrigger canoes, using only the stars, winds, and currents as their guide. They brought with them not just people but also plants, animals, and a sophisticated culture that would flourish in this new island home. They were pioneers establishing communities that learned to live in harmony with the lush but demanding environment. Their legacy is the foundation upon which all of Vanuatu's history is built, a story of incredible courage, skill, and a deep connection to the sea. In a world without written language, knowledge was a sacred trust, passed from one generation to the next through powerful oral traditions. Stories, songs, and intricate dances became the vessels of history, genealogy, and essential wisdom. Elders were the respected guardians of this knowledge, their minds serving as living libraries for their communities. Through these traditions, children learned about their ancestors, the creation of their world, and the complex rules that governed their society. This oral heritage was more than just a collection of tales. It was the very glue that held their societies together, ensuring continuity and a shared sense of identity across the ages. At the core of this cultural world is a single powerful concept: custom. This word, derived from the English word custom, encompasses far more than its origin suggests. Custom is the traditional way of life. It is the intricate web of beliefs, values, rituals, and social structures that have guided the Vanuatu people for millennia. It dictates everything from land ownership and marriage practices to conflict resolution and spiritual ceremonies. It is a holistic system that connects people to their land, their ancestors, and their community, providing a moral compass and a sense of belonging that has endured through centuries of change. Custom is not a static relic of the past, it is a dynamic and living force. It adapts and evolves, yet its fundamental principles remain a constant source of strength and identity. For the people of Vanuatu, custom is the anchor that keeps them grounded, the roots that run deep into the volcanic soil of their islands. It is the wisdom of their ancestors speaking to them in the present, offering guidance as they navigate the complexities of the modern world. It is the heartbeat of their culture, a rhythm that has pulsed steadily through times of peace and times of profound disruption, and continues to beat strongly today. The arrival of European explorers in the 17th century marked the beginning of a new and unsettling era for the islands. The Portuguese navigator Pedro Fernandes de Queiroz was the first to land in 1606, mistakenly believing he had found the great southern continent, which he named Australia del Espiritu Santo. He was followed more than a century later by French and British explorers, including the famous Captain James Cook, who charted the archipelago in 1774 and named it the New Hebrides. These early encounters were often fleeting, but they opened the door to a more disruptive presence: traders, missionaries, and colonial administrators who would profoundly alter the course of the island's history. The late 19th century brought intense competition between Britain and France, both vying for influence and resources in the Pacific. Rather than one nation seizing control, a unique and peculiar solution was found. In 1906 they established the Anglo-French Condominium of the New Hebrides, a system of joint rule. This created a government structure unlike any other in the world. It was not a partnership, but a duplication. There were 2 sets of laws, 2 police forces, 2 education systems, 2 currencies, and 2 resident commissioners. This bizarre arrangement was so confusing and inefficient that it was often referred to as the pandemonium instead of the condominium. For the indigenous people of the New Hebrides, life under this dual administration was incredibly difficult. They were effectively stateless, belonging to neither the British nor the French Empire. This left them in a legal limbo, with little protection and few rights. A person could be arrested by a French police officer for an offense that was not a crime under British law, or vice versa. The 2 systems often worked against each other, creating confusion and allowing injustices to occur. The colonial powers were more concerned with their own interests than with the welfare of the people they governed, and the islanders were caught in the middle of their rivalry. This period of colonial rule fundamentally reshaped Vanuatu society. The introduction of Christianity challenged traditional custom beliefs, creating deep social divisions that sometimes persist to this day. Large tracts of land were acquired for coconut and coffee plantations, dispossessing local communities of their ancestral heritage. The economy was reoriented to serve colonial interests, and the people were drawn into a cash-based system that was foreign to their traditional way of life. The legacy of the condominium was one of division, confusion, and the erosion of indigenous authority, creating complex challenges that the nation would have to confront on its path to independence. The Second World War brought the outside world to the shores of the New Hebrides in a way no one could have ever imagined. The island's strategic location in the Pacific made them a crucial base for the Allied forces, particularly the United States, in their campaign against Japan. In 1942, a massive influx of American soldiers, sailors, and equipment transformed the islands of Ifate and Espiritu Santo almost overnight. Huge airfields, roads, and military bases were constructed with incredible speed. For the local people who had only known the slow pace of colonial administration, this sudden and overwhelming display of industrial power was astonishing. The American presence brought dramatic changes to the local economy and culture. The military hired thousands of Vanuatu men to work on construction projects and as laborers on the bases. For the first time, many islanders earned regular wages and had access to manufactured goods like canned food, cigarettes, and modern tools. This sudden wealth, or cargo, was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Furthermore, the American soldiers, including African American troops, often treated the local people with a degree of friendliness and equality that stood in stark contrast to the hierarchical attitudes of the British and French colonial rulers. This experience planted new ideas about race, wealth, and power. When the war ended and the Americans departed as quickly as they had arrived, they left behind not only abandoned airstrips and military equipment, but also a profound cultural impact. The sudden disappearance of the source of the cargo was deeply perplexing. This led to the rise of what became known as cargo cults. These were spiritual movements that sought to understand and replicate the conditions that had brought the American wealth. Adherents built symbolic airstrips from bamboo and wood, hoping to attract the planes and their precious cargo back. It was a rational attempt to make sense of a completely transformative and bewildering experience using the lens of their own spiritual worldview. These movements were more than just a desire for material goods, they were also an early expression of political and cultural resistance. They represented a rejection of the colonial order and a desire for the prosperity and equality that the islanders had briefly witnessed. The cargo cults demonstrated the people's capacity to adapt their own beliefs, to explain new realities, and to imagine a different kind of future for themselves. The war had unintentionally exposed the frailties of the colonial system and given the people of the New Hebrides a glimpse of a world beyond their shores, sowing the seeds of the nationalist movements that would emerge in the decades to follow. The ideas planted during the Second World War grew slowly but steadily in the post-war decades. A new generation of leaders began to emerge, many of whom had been educated in mission schools or had traveled abroad. They started to question the legitimacy of the Condominium, and to dream of a future where the people of the New Hebrides could govern themselves. Political awareness grew, fueled by a desire to reclaim their land and their dignity. The most prominent of these movements was the New Hebrides National Party, later renamed the Vanuatu Party, led by an Anglican priest named Father Walter Leaney. The journey to independence was a complex and challenging process. The Vanuatu Party advocated for a unified, independent nation, but faced opposition from French-speaking parties who feared that an independent state would be dominated by English-speaking interests. The two colonial powers, Britain and France, had different views on the pace and nature of decolonization. Britain was generally more supportive of a swift transition to independence, while France, concerned about its nickel-rich colony of New Caledonia nearby, was more reluctant. These tensions created a deeply polarized political environment, with frequent disagreements and moments of crisis on the road to self-governance. The most serious challenge came in the months leading up to the planned independence in 1980. On the island of Espiritu Santo, a secessionist movement led by a charismatic leader named Jimmy Stevens declared its own independent state, which they called Vimarana. Supported by some French colonists and American business interests, the Santo Rebellion was a direct threat to the unity of the new nation. The crisis escalated, and the outgoing British and French forces were unable or unwilling to resolve it. It was a perilous moment that threatened to shatter the dream of a united Vanuatu before it could even begin. Despite the turmoil, the leaders of the new nation held firm. On July 30, 1980, the New Hebrides became the independent Republic of Vanuatu, meaning our land forever. One of the first acts of Prime Minister Walter Leaney's new government was to quell the Santo Rebellion, which it did with military assistance from Papua New Guinea. Independence was a moment of immense pride and hope, but it was born from a difficult struggle. The nation began its life facing deep political divisions and the daunting task of uniting a people who had been governed for decades under a system designed to keep them apart. Independence brought sovereignty, but it did not erase the deep-seated challenges inherited from the colonial past. One of the most immediate and enduring issues is the nation's incredible linguistic diversity. With over 100 indigenous languages, Vanuatu is one of the most linguistically dense countries on Earth. While this is a source of immense cultural pride, it also presents significant practical difficulties for governance, education, and national unity. The nation adopted Bislama, a Pidgin English language, as its national language to bridge these divides, alongside English and French as official languages. Yet, creating a shared national identity among so many distinct language groups remains an ongoing project. The political landscape of Vanuatu has also been marked by instability. The divisions fostered during the Condominium era between Anglophone and Francophone communities continued to influence politics long after independence. The country's political system has often been fragmented, with numerous parties and frequent changes in government through motions of no confidence. This instability has at times hindered long-term planning and development, making it difficult to address the country's pressing economic and social needs effectively. For the people of Vanuatu, navigating this complex political world has become a familiar, though often frustrating, part of modern life. As if these human-made challenges were not enough, Vanuatu is also situated in one of the most disaster-prone regions of the world. The islands lie along the Pacific Ring of Fire, making them highly vulnerable to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. they are also directly in the path of tropical cyclones, which have become more intense and frequent in recent years. In 2015, the catastrophic Cyclone Pam devastated the country, wiping out years of development progress in a single night. For the people of Vanuatu, rebuilding in the face of such relentless natural forces is a constant and exhausting reality. Perhaps the greatest threat of all is the slow, creeping crisis of climate change. Rising sea levels are already threatening coastal communities, forcing some villages to consider the painful prospect of relocating from their ancestral lands. Ocean acidification and warming waters are damaging the coral reefs that are vital for food security and the tourism economy. For a low-lying island nation, climate change is not a distant, abstract problem, it is an existential threat to its very survival. The future of Vanuatu is inextricably linked to the world's ability to address this global challenge, a challenge it did almost nothing to create. Today, the people of Vanuatu stand at a fascinating crossroads, skillfully weaving together the different threads of their identity. The deep roots have continued to provide a powerful sense of community and moral guidance, governing land rights and social harmony in villages across the archipelago. At the same time, Christianity, introduced during the colonial era, has become a central part of life for the vast majority of the population. These two belief systems, once seen as being in conflict, now coexist, often blending together in a unique spiritual landscape. This ability to hold both tradition and modernity in balance is a defining feature of contemporary Vanuatu life. This balance is visible everywhere. In the capital, Port Vila, modern office buildings stand near bustling markets where villagers sell yams and kava grown on their traditional lands. Young people may use smartphones and engage with global culture on the internet, yet they still participate in important ceremonies that connect them to their ancestors. The nation is learning to navigate the demands of a globalized world without losing sight of the cultural values that have sustained its people for centuries. It is a delicate dance, but one that the people of Vanuatu are performing with remarkable grace and resilience. Facing the immense threat of climate change, Vanuatu has transformed its vulnerability into a source of strength on the international stage. It has become a powerful and respected voice for climate justice, leading a global campaign to ask the International Court of Justice to clarify the legal obligations of states to protect the climate system for present and future generations. This bold initiative shows a nation that is not a passive victim of circumstance, but an active agent of change. It draws on its deep cultural value of caring for the environment and its moral authority as a nation on the front lines of the climate crisis. The colonial past has left Vanuatu with many scars, political divisions, economic dependencies, and social complexities. Yet, it has not broken the spirit of its people. Instead, the struggles for unity and self-determination have forged a powerful sense of national identity. The future of this remarkable nation will be shaped not by the legacy of division, but by the enduring strength of its cultures, the resilience of its communities, and the shared hope for a just and sustainable world. The story of Vanuatu is a profound reminder that even the smallest of nations can offer the world the greatest lessons in courage, unity, and survival.